The hour of convening having arrived, all members of this House will please report to the floor and take your seats. All members will please take their seats and report to the floor of the House. The clerk will ring the bell. All members will please take your seats. We're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good Monday morning to you, and welcome to day 12 of the session. We will begin our day today with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 4th House District, Chairman Casey Carpenter. Chairman Carpenter.
Thank you, Speaker. Brothers and sisters of the House, I come before you today to introduce a dear friend as the pastor of the day, Pastor Eric Guile, or Gile if you're a sports announcer, because they always mess his kid's name up when they're announcing the game. Eric has been a friend of mine for 5 years since his family moved to our community. Pastor Guile has been a stabilizing force for a church that has gone through a lot of heartache over the last decade. He and his wife, Maxine, have been a blessing for Christ Church and for our community. But today will actually be the first day I've ever heard him preach, because I don't bring my pastor down here. I don't want you guys filling his head with stories that might question his ability to shepherd his flock. In all seriousness, I brought Pastor Guile down here today because we do life together. We have kids that are the same age, and I'm sure if he preaches anything like he parents, we're in for a great surprise. So without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, Pastor Eric Guile.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Casey, my friend, Representative Carpenter, and thank you, representatives of the great state of Georgia, for this opportunity to speak and to pray with you today. This morning, I just want to share a couple thoughts about conflict that's driven by anger. It's something that we face every day. I've even been told that sometimes it breaks out here in this house, that there's a little bit of conflict. I grew up with conflict on a daily basis. You see, I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina, back in the early 70s and the early 80s. And that puts me right in the middle of the golden era of ACC basketball. Now, I understand we've lived here long enough that college basketball is basically something that stands in between football season and spring ball. I get that. But growing up in North Carolina, we got into it all the time about basketball. And one time, I remember I was called into the teacher's office after a conflict, after a scrimmage on the basketball court. And the other little boy was in there, and the teacher said, "What happened?" And I blurted out, "He called me a Tar Heel." Now, my teacher had grown up on Tobacco Road, and she knew the seriousness of that charge. And she talked to him and gave us both a stern talk, but she said, "Don't you ever call him that again," is how she left it. Now, conflict, it's a part of our fallen human nature. And several years later, I was in the middle of conflict, harsh conflict, ugly conflict. In fact, this morning driving in, when the police rerouted me around because of the bomb scare, it reminded me of this. You see, back in the early 90s, I lived in Belfast, Northern Ireland, for a while. And I got to be an assistant pastor at a church there. And this was, of course, during the time that the historians call the Troubles. It's when the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, was fighting the Loyalists, and they were blowing each other up, and they were shooting each other, and it was a tough place, full of conflict. A couple years before I got there, a friend of mine was driving to her brother's house. He was a warden in a prison, which made him a target for the IRA. Just before she got there, an IRA assassination team ran out when he was getting in his car and shot him dead, and that's what she drove up to the scene of her brother, her younger brother, lying there next to his car. A couple years later, my friend and I and some other Christian ministry workers, we were at a big community gathering, and all of a sudden she tensed up, and we said, "What's wrong?" And she said, the solicitor, the IRA lawyer that got my brother's murderers off with a slap on the wrist, he just walked in the room. And then she started to shake a little bit, and she said, "And I feel like God's telling me I need to talk to him about grace and forgiveness and about Jesus, and I don't want to." And she started shaking. And she said, "Pray for me." And we got around her and we prayed for her. And we prayed for God's peace that passes all understanding to overwhelm her. And y'all, right there before my eyes, the shaking stopped, and she squared up her shoulders, and she marched across that floor. She introduced herself to the man, and she shared about how much her brother loved the Lord, he was in heaven, how much she loved the Lord, and how much the Lord, most importantly, loved him. See, that day, conflict ruled by anger did not win, but God's peace did. God has declared that in this world we're going to face trouble, and we will all face conflict, sometimes conflict fueled by anger. But friends, it doesn't win unless we let it. If you invite the Lord in and pray and ask him for his peace to come in, it will, and he wins every time. Today and during this session, when you sense that conflict, maybe by anger arising, I encourage you and I admonish you to take a second and to pray, to ask the Lord to give you his peace that passes all understanding, and to watch as he does just that. Will you please stand now and let me pray for you? Let's pray together. Lord God Almighty, I pray for these men and women leaders in this hallowed chamber right now. Lord, I pray Philippians 4, 6, and 7 over them as they enter into this session. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Present your requests to God, and may the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, may it guard their hearts and their minds in Christ Jesus. Lord, may your peace rule over their hearts and over their conversations and over their deliberations as they serve the people of the great state of Georgia. I pray this in the Prince of Peace, Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Once again, I'll remind you that members may greet the chaplain in the south anteroom. Chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And Mr. Speaker, Thomas Edison said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, from the 59th moves following establishes the order of business in the first part of the period unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1194 by Representative Crowell, the 110th, a bill being entitled Act to amend Code Section 4180 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to safe operations of motor carriers.
Motor vehicles.
House Bill 1195 by Representative Lawson of the 12th, Collins of the 68th, Fleming of the 121st, Anderson of the 10th, Williams of the 145th. Bill be titled an Act to amend Chapter 85 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to interlock risk management agencies.
Insurance.
House Bill 1196 by Representative Powell, the 32nd. Bill be titled an Act to amend an Act to provide for homestead exemptions from the Hart County ad valorem taxes.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1197 by Representative Kelly, the 16th. Bill be titled an Act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to income taxes.
Ways and
House
Means.
Bill 1198 by Representative Carson, the 46th. Belton, the 112th. Thomas, the 21st. Prince, the 127th. Clark, the 147th, and others. Bill be titled an Act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7, Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the imposition rate computation.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 1199 by Representative Maynard, the 56th. Bill be titled an Act to amend the Act creating the Board of Commissioners of Fulton County.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 1200 by Representative Wilson, the 80th, Oliver, the 82nd, Evans, the 83rd, and Holcomb, the 81st. Bill be titled Act to amend an Act authorizing the governing authority of the City of Brookhaven to levy an excise tax.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1201 by Representative Dukes, the 154th. Bill be titled an Act to provide for reapportionment of the election districts for the Baker County Board of Education.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1202 by Representative Dukes, the 154th. Bill be titled an Act to amend the Act creating the Board of Commissioners of Baker County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1203 by Representative Perkle, the 155th, Houston, the 170th, Watson, the 172nd. A bill be titled an Act to amend the Act creating the Board of Commissioners of Tift County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1204 by Representative Dukes, the 154th, Green, and the 151st, Hobson, the 153rd. A bill be titled an Act to amend the Act creating a Board of Commissioners of Dougherty County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1205 by Representative Saints, the 180th, and Corbett, and the 174th. Bill be titled an Act to amend an Act to amend, restate, revise, reorganize, and modernize the law relating to Board of Commissioners of Camden County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1206 by Representative Benton of the 31st. Bill be titled an Act to establish a system of public schools in the city of Jefferson, Georgia.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1207 by Representative Perkle of the 155th, Houston, the 170th, Watson, the 172nd. Bill be titled an Act to amend an Act creating the Tift County Board of Education.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1208 by Representative Rhodes, the 120th. The bill be titled an Act to amend an Act creating the Board of Commissioners of Greene County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1209 by Representative Rhodes, the 120th. The bill be titled an Act to amend an Act creating the Board of Education of Greene County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1210 by Representative Bonner, the 72nd. Mathiak, the 73rd. Singleton, the 71st. And Jackson, the 64th. Bill be titled an Act to amend an Act creating the Board of Commissioners of Fayette County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1211 by Representative Frazier, the 126th. The bill be titled an Act to amend an Act creating the Board of Commissioners of Burke County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1212 by Representative Frazier, the 126th bill be titled, an act amending and act creating the Burke County Board of Education.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1213 by Representative Caucus, the 138th bill be titled, an act amending and act creating the Board of Commissioners of Marion County.
Intergovernmental
House
coordination.
Bill 1214 by Representative Scott of the 76th bill be titled, an act amending and act changing the composition of and manner of selection of the Clayton County Board of Education.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 1215 by Representative Thomas, the 21st, Way to the 9th, Jones, the 47th, Carson, the 46th, Gullett, the 19th, and others. The bill be titled, an act to amend Code Section 2089 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to funding for state charter schools.
Education.
House Bill 1216 by Representative McDonald, the 26th, Collins, the 68th, Powell, the 32nd, Hitchens, the 161st, Burns, the 59th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 15, Chapter 6, and Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to serious traffic offenses.
Help public safety and homeland security.
House Bill 1217 by Representative Irwin of the 28th, Jones, the 47th, Dubnik of the 29th, McDonald of the 26th, Mathiak the 73rd, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated the Quality Basic Education Act.
Education.
House Bill 1218 by Representative Evans of the 83rd, Bentley the 139th, Smith of the 18th, Lovett of the 33rd, Nelson the 125th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 14 to Title 10 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to cemetery and funeral services.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1219 by Representative Houston of the 170th, Jaspers of the 11th, Parrish of the 158th, Tankersley the 160th, Newton of the 123rd. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 11, Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to general provisions relative to dentists.
Health and Human
House
Services.
Bill 1220 by Representative Clark of the 108th, Holcomb of the 81st, Kennard of the 102nd, and Carpenter of the 4th. Bill be titled, an act to amend Part 2 of Article 6 of Chapter 2 and Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to competencies and core curricula.
Education.
House Bill 1221 by Representative Gamble of the 15th, Cantrell of the 22nd, Washburn of the 141st, Campbell of the 131st, Crowe of the 110th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Code Section 4414 361.1 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to how liens declared and created.
Judiciary.
House Bill 1222 by Representative Williams of the 148th, Gilliard of the 162nd, Williamson of the 115th, Lumsden of the 12th, Powell of the 32nd, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Code Section 33.1.24 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to insurance requirements.
Insurance.
House Bill 1223 by Representative Martin of the 49th, Smith of the 133rd, and Rhodes of the 120th. Bill be titled, an act to amend Code Section 48.8.3 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to exemptions from sales and use taxes.
Ways and
House
Means.
Bill 1224 by Representative Martin of the 49th, Stevens of the 164th. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to ad valorem taxation of property.
Ways and Means.
House Resolution 706 by Representative Camp of the 131st, Mathiak the 73rd, Bonner of the 72nd. A resolution honoring the life and memory of Mr. Rex J. Yerkes and dedicating a bridge in his memory.
Transportation.
House Resolution 707 by Representative Werkhuizen, the 157th, Evans, the 57th, Wiedauer, the 119th, Gaines, the 117th, Hagan, the 156th, and others. A resolution creating a House Study Committee on Homicide Cold Case Resources.
Judiciary.
House Resolution 708 by Representative Hawkins, the 27th, Dubnik of the 29th, Donahue, the 30th, and Barr, the 103rd. A resolution honoring the life of Officer Bobby Sue Honey and dedicating a road in her memory.
Transportation.
House Resolution 732 by Representative Martin, the 49th, Rose, the 120th, Jones, the 25th, and Jones, the 47th. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution shows change the date by which temporary loans for counties, municipalities, and other political subdivisions.
Governmental Affairs.
Senate Bill 369 by Senator Dixon, the 45th, Albers, the 56th, Cowser, the 46th, Kennedy, the 18th, Robertson, the 29th, and others. Bill be titled, an act amending an act relating to the education districts for the election of members of the Board of Education in Gwinnett County.
Governmental Affairs.
Senate Bill 384 by Senator Anderson, the 24th, and Burns, the 23rd. A bill be titled, an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Columbia County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 385 by Senator Anderson, the 24th, and Burns, the 23rd. A bill to be titled an act amending an act providing for the election of Board of Education of Columbia County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 386 by Senator Robertson, the 29th. Bill to be titled an act amending an act creating a Board of Commissioners in Meriwether County.
Intergovernmental coordination, governmental affairs.
Senate Bill 387 by Senator Robertson, the 29th. Bill to be titled an act amending an act to reconstitute the Meriwether County Board of Education.
Governmental affairs.
Senate Bill 391 by Senator Tillery, the 19th. Bill to be titled an act amending an act creating a Board of Commissioners of Jeff Davis County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
Senate Bill 392 by Senator Tillery, the 19th. Bill to be titled an act amending an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of Jeff Davis County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1155 by Representative Barton of the 5th, a bill to amend an act providing for the office of Commissioner of Gordon County. House Bill 1156 by Representative Hatchett of the 150th, a bill to amend an act creating a Board of Commissioners of Johnson County. House Bill 1157 by Representative Hatchett of the 150th, a bill to amend an act providing reapportionment or redistricting of the districts from and by which members of the Board of Education of Johnson County are elected. House Bill 1158 by Representative Carson of the 46th, Irwin of the 28th, Jaspers of the 11th, Cantrell of the 22nd, Setzler of the 35th, and others, a bill relating to general provisions regarding parent and child relationship. House Bill 1159 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to amend an act to increase the number of commissioners of roads and revenues for the county of Calhoun from 3 to 5. House Bill 1160 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to amend an act creating a Board of Commissioners of Clay County. House Bill 1161 by Representative Green of the 151st, a bill to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Clay County. House Bill 1162 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, a bill to amend an act reapportioning the election districts of the Board of Education of Telfair County. House Bill 1163 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, a bill to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of Dodge County. House Bill 1164 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, a bill to amend an act creating the Office of Commissioner of Dodge County. House Bill 1165 by Representative Pruitt of the 149th, a bill to amend an act to provide for the composition of the Board of Education of Wheeler County. House Bill 1166 by Representative Yerta of the 152nd, a bill to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Lee County. House Bill 1167 by Representative Rhodes of the 120th, a bill to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Telfair County. House Bill 1168 by Representative Perkle of the 155th, a bill to amend an act to provide election of members of the Board of Education of Turner County. House Bill 1169 by Representative Perkle of the 155th, a bill to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Turner County. House Bill 1170 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd, LaHood of the 175th, Watson of the 172nd, a bill to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Thomas County. House Bill 1171 by Representative Dickey of the 140th, Washburn of the 141st, Holmes of the 129th, the bill to amend an act to reconstitute the Board of Education of Monroe County. House Bill 1172 by Representative Dickey of the 140th, Washburn of the 141st, Holmes of the 129th, the bill to amend an act to create a Board of Commissioners of Roads and Revenues for the County of Monroe. House Bill 1173 by Representative Belton of the 112th, a bill to amend an act creating a Board of Commissioners of Morgan County. House Bill 1174 by Representative Belton of the 112th, a bill to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of Morgan County. House Bill 1175 by Representative Perkle of the 155th, Camp of the 131st, Campbell of the 171st, and Jenkins of the 132nd, a bill relating to standards labeling and adulteration of food. House Bill 1176 by Representative Perkle of the 155th and Clark of the 147th, a bill relating to selling and other trade practices. House Bill 1177 by Representative Bazemore of the 63rd, Beverly of the 143rd, Bennett of the 94th, Williams of the 37th, Hughley of the 136th, and others, a bill relating to general provisions of labor and industrial relations. House Bill 1178 by Representative Bonner of the 72nd, Jones of the 47th, Dubnick of the 29th, Irwin of the 28th, Wade of the 9th, and others, a bill relating to review and removal of students in elementary and secondary education. House Bill 1179 by Representative McLeod of the 105th, Alexander of the 66th, Mitchell of the 88th, Kendrick of the 93rd, Scott of the 76th, and others, a bill relating to holidays and observances. House Bill 1180 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Jaspers of the 11th, Watson of the 172nd, England of the 116th, Taylor of the 173rd, and others, a bill relating to regional commissions. House Bill 1181 by Representative Jackson of the 64th, Dreyer of the 59th, Bazemore of the 63rd, Bruce of the 61st, Thomas of the 65th, and others, a bill relating to development authorities. House Bill 1182 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd and Campbell of the 171st, a bill relating to sale or disposition of county real property. House Bill 1183 by Representative Gunter of the 8th, Lumsden of the 12th, Scoggins of the 14th, Smith of the 18th, Kelly of the 16th, and others, a bill relating to bonds and recognizance. House Bill 1184 by Representative Williams of the 168th, Estration of the 104th, Hogan of the 179th, Smyrie of the 135th, Gaines of the 117th, a bill relating to effectiveness of educational programs. House Bill 1185 by Representative Lewis Ward of the 109th, Beverly of the 143rd, Bennett of the 94th, Drenner of the 85th, a bill relating to decisions on Ward's well-being, obligations of guardian, and liability of guardian. House Bill 1186 by Representative Houston of the 170th, Dubnick of the 29th, Irwin of the 28th, Cooper of the 43rd, Lott of the 122nd, and others. A bill relating to state speech, language, pathology, and audiology licensing. House Bill 1187 by Representative Williams of the 148th, Gravely of the 67th, Corbett of the 174th, Gamble of the 15th, Rhodes of the 120th, and others. A bill relating to exemptions from sales and use tax. House Bill 1188 by Representative Lott of the 122nd, Gravely of the 67th, Basemore of the 63rd, Smith of the 18th, Bumpton of the 17th, and others. A bill relating to child molestation and aggravated child molestation. House Bill 1189 by Representative Williamson of the 115th, Kelly of the 16th. A bill relating to imposition rate computation, exemptions, and credits relative to state income tax. House Bill 1190 by Representative Scoggins of the 14th, Gamble of the 15th, Kelly of the 16th. A bill to amend an act providing for the Board of Education of Bartow County. House Bill 1191 by Representative Smith of the 18th, a bill to authorize the Municipal Court of the City of Bremen to charge a technology fee. House Bill 1192 by Representative Cooper of the 43rd, Parrish of the 158th, and Nolowitz of the 42nd, Hawkins of the 27th, Gaines of the 117th, a bill relating to medical assistance. House Bill 1193 by Representative Gamble of the 15th, Smith of the 18th, Bentley of the 139th, Mathis of the 144th, Williams of the 145th, and others. A bill relating to licenses for funeral directors and embalmers. House Resolution 683 by Representative Green of the 151st, Donohue of the 30th, Perkle of the 155th, Buckner of the 137th, and Lumsden of the 12th. A resolution authorizing the granting of non-exclusive easements. House Resolution 684 by Representative Kelly of the 16th, Smith of the 18th, Growley of the 67th. A resolution honoring the life and memory of Judge Dan Peace Wynn and dedicating an intersection in his memory. House Resolution 685 by Representative Williamson of the 115th, a resolution honoring the life and memory of Sergeant James Terry Savage, dedicating a bridge in his memory. House Resolution 686 by Representative Watson of the 172nd, Burns of the 159th, Buckner of the 137th, Corbett of the 174th, and Hatchett of the 150th. Resolution proposing amendment to the Constitution so as to provide for a reduction in the rate of the ad valorem tax assessment of timber, stale, or harvest. 3 second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Jan Tackersley, the 160th District Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Local, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Locals had consideration the following bills of the House and the Senate. It has instructed me to report same back to the House the following recommendations. House Bill 1102 do pass. House Bill 1104 do pass. House Bill 1105 do pass. House Bill 1106 do pass. House Bill 1108 do pass. House Bill 1109 do pass. House Bill 1110 do pass. House Bill 1111 do pass. House Bill 1112 do pass. House Bill 1113 do pass. House Bill 1114 do pass. House Bill 1115 do pass. House Bill 1116 do pass. House Bill 1117 do pass. House Bill 1118 do pass. House Bill 1119 do pass. House Bill 1122 do pass. House Bill 1123 do pass. House Bill 1124 do pass. House Bill 1125 do pass. House Bill 1126 do pass. House Bill 1127 do pass. House Bill 1128 do pass. House Bill 1129 do pass. House Bill 1135 do pass. House Bill 1136 do pass. House Bill 1139 do pass. House Bill 1140 do pass. House Bill 1141 do pass. House Bill 1142 do pass. House Bill 1143 do pass. Senate Bill 365 do pass. Senate Bill 367 do pass. Senate Bill 373 do pass. House Bill 872 do pass. House Bill 878 House Bill 1032 do pass. House Bill 1101 do pass. Senate Bill 347 do pass. Senate Bill 362 do pass. Senate Bill 368 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Tankers to the 160th District. Chairman, that completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
All right, we're going on now to the local calendar. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. You have before you a local calendar and a supplemental local calendar, and we will consider those together. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar and the supplemental local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar and the supplemental local calendar.
House Bill 1102 by Representative Green in the 151st Early County. House Bill 1104 by Representative Houston in the 170th Cook County. House Bill 1105 by Representative Houston in the 170th Cook County. House Bill 1106 by Representative Williams in the 148th Wilcox County. House Bill 1108 by Representative Rhodes in the 120th Putnam County. House Bill 1109 by Representative Mathiak in the 73rd Griffin Spalding County. House Bill 1110 by Representative Mathiak in the 73rd Spalding County. House Bill 1111 by Representative Meeks in the 178th Pierce County. House Bill 1112 by Representative Meeks in the 178th Pierce County. House Bill 1113 by Representative Perkle, 155th Ben Hill County. House Bill 1114 by Representative Benton of the 31st Jackson County. House Bill 1115 by Representative Benton of the 31st City of Commerce. House Bill 1116 by Representative Benton of the 31st Jackson County. House Bill 1117 by Representative Stevens of the 164th Bryan County. House Bill 1118 by Representative Ballinger of the 23rd Cherokee County. House Bill 1119 by Representative Campbell of the 171st Decatur County. House Bill 1122 by Representative Campbell of the 171st Decatur County. House Bill 1123 by Representative Hogan of the 179th Glynn County. House Bill 1124 by Representative Blackman of the 146th Houston County. House Bill 1125 by Representative Perkle of the 155th Ben Hill County. House Bill 1126 by Representative Deloach of the 167th McIntosh County. House Bill 1127 by Representative Carpenter of the 4th Whitfield County. House Bill 1128 by Representative Carpenter of the 4th Whitfield County. House Bill 1129 by Representative Corbett of the 174th Charlton County. House Bill 1135 by Representative Smith of the 70th Coweta County. House Bill 1136 by Representative Smith of the 70th Coweta County. House Bill 1138 by Representative Werkheiser of the 157th Tottenham County. House Bill 1140 by Representative Irwin of the 28th Banks County. House Bill 1141 by Representative Irwin of the 28th Banks County. House Bill 1142 by Representative Gaines of the 117th Athens Clark County. House Bill 1143 by Representative Ballinger of the 23rd Cherokee County. House Bill 1113 by Representative Perkle of the 155th Ben Hill County. House Bill 1114 by Representative Benton of the 31st Jackson County. House Bill 1126 by Representative Deloach of the 167th McIntosh County. Senate Bill 365 by Senator Dugan of the 30th Carroll County. Senate Bill 367 by Senator Gooch of the 51st Lumpkin County. Senate Bill 373 by Senator Anna Duarte of the 31st Haralson County. House Bill 872 by Representative Park of the 101st Gwinnett County. House Bill 1032 by Representative Corbett of the 174th Charlton County. House Bill 1101 by Representative Green of the 151st Early County. Senate Bill 347 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, White County. Senate Bill 362 by Senator Goodman of the 8th, Lanier County. Senate Bill 368 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, White County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar and the supplemental local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. The ayes are 148. The nays are 7. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Tankersley rise?
I rise to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move we immediately transmit the supplemental and the other calendar to the Senate.
Chairman Tankersley has moved that we immediately transmit all the bills on the local calendar and the supplemental calendar over to the Senate. Is there objection? Is there objection? What purpose does Representative Derek Jackson rise? Okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted to be sure. There is no objection, and those bills are on their way to the state Senate. On Thursday, February the 3rd, 2022, this House failed to pass House Bill 1062 by the requisite constitutional majority. The lady from the 131st District served notice of a motion to reconsider the action of the House in failing to give House Bill 1062 the requisite constitutional majority. Now is the time for the lady to pursue the motion if she so desires.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion.
State your motion.
I still move for reconsideration of House Bill 1062.
So you're moving on your motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Representative Camp has moved that the House reconsider its action in failing to give House Bill 1062 a requisite constitutional majority. On the lady's motion that the House reconsider its action in failing to give House Bill 1062 a requisite constitutional majority, all those in favor of reconsideration will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the lady's motion. The ayes are 101, the nays are 51, and this House has reconsidered its action in failing to give House Bill 1062 the requisite constitutional majority, and that will be put on a later calendar. What purpose does Chairman Tankersley rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that House Bill 1029, House Bill 1030, House Bill 1031, and House Bill 1062 be recommitted to the House Intergovernmental Coordination Committee.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 1029 by Representative Jones of the 47th be titled an act to amend an act incorporating the city of Milton in Fulton County, Georgia. House Bill 1030 by Representative Jones of the 47th be titled an act to amend an act incorporating the city of Milton in Fulton County, Georgia. And House Bill 1031 by Representative Jones of the 47th to be titled an act to amend an act incorporating the city of Milton in Fulton County, Georgia. House Bill 1062 by Representative Campbell, 131st to be entitled an act to provide a homestead exemption from Upson County ad valorem taxes.
On the lady's motion that House Bills 1029, 1030, 1031, and 1062 be recommitted to the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee, is there objection? Is there objection? The chair hears none, and those bills are back in intergovernmental coordination. We're going on now to morning orders.
The chair recognizes Speaker Ralston, Chairman Smith, Representative Smyrie, and Representative Smith for a morning order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I am honored to be joined in the well today by two of the greatest leaders to ever serve in this body. I make that three, I miscounted. The Dean of the House, Calvin Smyrie, Rules Chairman Richard Smith, and Representative Vance Smith. The four of us, along with many others in this body and around this Capitol, share a special bond. We were blessed to have had the friendship, the wise counsel, and just plain fun of knowing Pete Robinson. Pete Robinson served in this body and then went on to distinguished service in the state Senate, and everywhere he went, he became a leader. But I knew of no one who worked as hard as he did to stay out of the limelight and stay below the radar, who wielded at the same time such strong influence over state government. He was a great counselor to governors, legislators, and a speaker. He did not seek out credit. To him, political differences never were obstacles to arriving at a solution. Besides being a loving father to his three children, perhaps his greatest legacy is the number of young people he mentored in the ways of government and with whom he generously shared his knowledge and experience. We lost Pete last July, much too young and much too quickly, and I know I and others miss him very much still today. But his quiet influence, we know, will never die. Pete's three children, Carolyn, Miller, and Grant, are with us today and will be in the anteroom shortly after we conclude up here for those who wish to greet them. And I yield the well now to Chairman Richard Smith.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm going to take a little different approach because Pete and I were very good friends for over 30 years. You know, there are people who come in and out of our life on a regular basis that make us a better person. And I can tell you right now, if it was not for Pete, I would not have been on city council. And if it were not for Pete, I would not be here. Pete was a tremendous guiding force in my life. And the last time I talked with Pete was the week before he passed. Now, you remember, he started having issues, and 3 weeks later he passed. Last time I talked with him, the last words I said is, "Pete, I love you." And he said, "I love you too." We need to remember life is real fragile. So that's all I've got to say, but I miss him, and I would, there hasn't been a day that's gone by I haven't thought about him. And every time I'm sitting up there in rules or in my office or talking with you, first thing I think about is, you know, if Pete was sitting across the aisle, how would he and I discuss it? So he played a major influence on me, and I'll tell you, I really miss him, and I didn't know if I could come up here and do this, Speaker.
Yield to Dean Smyrie.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you for bringing this resolution. And as chair of the Columbus delegation in this House, Representative Smith, Representative Van Smith and Richard Smith, Representative Carolyn Hughley, and Representative Debbie Buckner, I'm really thrilled to say a word or two on behalf of Pete. Pete and I were dear friends. Pete was a very witty guy, and he kind of kept me on the right end of things, and we shared so many memories and moments together. And the tie I'm wearing today, Mill and Grant brought it by my office, and today I wear it in honor of their father and Jenna. And so he was just a wonderful person. I never seen anybody go as fast and quickly up the leadership ladder as Pete. He came in here in 1985 and stayed for 6 years, and he went to the Senate. And in his freshman year, he became floor leader to Governor Miller. And then he became majority leader, and then became president pro tem of the Senate, all within 4 years of service. So Pete was a tremendous individual, and I'm just honored today to stand here and say a word about his life. And he left a strong legacy, and he did so much in the footprint of Columbus, Georgia, and across the state of Georgia. And so I'm honored today to stand here and to say a word about my friend Pete Robinson.
Yield to Representative Vance Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I love Pete. Pete was a big influence on me when I first ran. I too, as Chairman Richard Smith said, I've known Pete 30 years. And he would call up sometimes just spur of the moment, and he'd go, "We need to talk." That's probably one time somebody called and I didn't really turn a meeting down, because he was so knowledgeable. He loved the state of Georgia. He served the state of Georgia, and he continued to serve the state of Georgia after he left political office. And as said by Mr. Speaker, he was behind the scenes, great friend, loved his family, loved his children, and I hope you'll take a minute to speak to Carolyn and Miller and Grant and tell them, you know, how much you appreciated your friendship and appreciated the work that Pete did for the state of Georgia. Tremendous citizen of our state of Georgia, and he will certainly be missed. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representatives Corbett, Stevens, Hatchett, and Ridley for a morning order. They waive. The chair recognizes Representative Wiedauer for a morning order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. As I walked into church yesterday, someone asked me, "So you going to run again?" I almost surprised myself how joyfully I said, absolutely. But almost immediately I began thinking about how many of you in this chamber who won't be with us next year. And how each of you would have responded to that same question. Some are retiring, some running for different offices, some leaving to satisfy the pressures which are created back home in our time here. With these departures, we'll lose tremendous amount of institutional knowledge, collaborative thinkers, and good friends. Coincidentally, this week's devotional was about the weight we all carry around every day, and it led me to continue to reflect on the people in this room and how no matter where we come from, no matter what our backgrounds are, no matter what our political affiliations are, we all carry around the weight of serving this great state. As we began this session, there's been a lot of divisiveness in this room. We need to remember that this is a citizen legislature and that we're all giving up things back home to serve our communities. We leave behind jobs, the comforts of our own homes, and most importantly, our families. All those things carry a weight with them, all while putting the weight of our communities on our shoulders. All this led me to acknowledge that regardless of my opinion of a particular policy, I have compassion for the weight we all carry when we come in this chamber, and that I care for the people in this chamber. I want to encourage everyone here to lead in a way our world needs most right now, which is respectfully. Disagree, sure, but let's do it respectfully. Build relationships with people who don't think like you. Let's not further the dehumanization of elected officials, which continues to run off good people who choose to satisfy their weight of responsibility back home instead of being part of what can be a very toxic environment. Let's have compassion for the weight we each carry and look for the good qualities in your fellow colleagues. Madam Speaker, thank you for the time this morning. Respectfully, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes Representatives Jackson and Williams for morning order.
Good morning, Madam Speaker, and good morning to everyone. Lives of great men all remind us we should make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. I'm here this morning to ask that you stand with us in the loss of Carolyn Quillen Coleman, the first person arrested in Savannah, Georgia in the Civil Rights Movement in Levy's department store. Carolyn was a member of NAACP until her death, having served on the board. During the Civil Rights Movement, we worked all over the South, Alabama, Florida, Mississippi. She ended up in Memphis, Tennessee, and later became the field director there, and then went on to North Carolina and became the chief assistant to Governor Hunt. She stayed there, and when she passed away, she was a member of the county commission, the vice chair of the county commission. She was my best friend. We called each other Room. The reason Al is here, Representative Al, is because we came up under the same leadership. So I yield to Al Williams.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Carolyn, so many years ago, over 50 years ago, as Representative Jackson and myself were being trained by some of the legendary leaders in Savannah, Georgia, Carolyn was always in the center. And confession is good for the soul. I had a crush on Carolyn, a rather deep crush, but I was not as good looking as I am now, so I didn't make it. But Carolyn Quillen Coleman's name will live on in Savannah, Georgia, and as a young guy, I'd catch the bus, a summer ride to Savannah, to go and demonstrate with Carolyn and Edna, and if I got out of jail or didn't go, I could catch a ride back home. Legendary times. Thank you all so much, and thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Bodie for morning order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I rise in Black history to honor the life of Reverend James Edward Orange. Reverend James Orange was both a great civil rights leader and a great organized labor icon. Reverend James Orange was born on October the 29th, 1942 in Birmingham, Alabama. He served as an aide to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. during the Civil Rights Movement. In 1963, Reverend Orange participated in the civil rights marches led by Dr. King and Reverend Ralph Abernathy here in Atlanta, Georgia. Reverend Orange was a project coordinator at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, known as SCLC, from 1965 to 1970. This action drew more young people into the civil rights movement just by his appointment. He later became the regional coordinator with the AFL-CIO here in Atlanta, Georgia, fighting on behalf of working families. In that role, Reverend Orange worked on at least 300 labor organizing campaigns. Reverend Orange was well respected and liked by all who met him. He had a custom of greeting everyone by calling them leader. Reverend Orange died here in Atlanta, Georgia on February the 16th, 2008. Reverend Orange is one of few individuals who will be remembered in the American Civil Rights Hall of Fame and the American Organized Labor Hall of Fame. Rest well, leader.
Chair recognizes Representative Wilson for a morning order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, today I bring to you Caleb, Georgia's adopted child of the day. Caleb is a funny, friendly, helpful, and easygoing teen who enjoys riding his bike, climbing trees, and playing basketball, video games, and board games. Monopoly and Clue are his favorites. Caleb is just one of the hundreds of Georgia children waiting for adoption in our state. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All right, we're going on now to the rules calendar. Going on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 891.
House Bill 891 by Representative Williamson to the 115th be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 7 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to financial institutions so as to provide for numerous updates. This bill having referred to the Committee on Banks and Banking, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
We had Representative Williamson here moments ago. Okay. Chair recognizes Representative Williamson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members, colleagues of the House. I rise today to present you the annual Department of Banking and Finance. I'm out of breath, excuse me. Indeed, or I apologize. The annual Department of Banking and Finance housekeeping bill. This continues our multi-year effort to streamline and modernize the Georgia Banking Code. It touches on all of our financial institutions in Georgia, including credit unions, banks, money service lenders, money transmitters, payment processors, and the like. The legislation is supported by the Georgia Bankers Association, the Southeastern League of Credit Unions, the Georgia Credit Union affiliates, Mortgage Bankers Association, Georgia Financial Services Association, and the Georgia Supplemental Association. It proposes a much-needed cleanup language. It's a long bill, but most of its terms and operational efficiencies that include updates to language, updates to reporting requirements, updates to change and control procedures. It adds ownership entities for LLCs. feel like I'm on the football field, Mr. Representative. It gives credit union boards meeting flexibility and gives smaller credit unions loan limit flexibility. Be happy to answer any questions. If not, Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad to yield the will and ask for your favorable consideration.
You've got a question if you want to yield.
Yes, sir. One question, please.
Representative Val Williams to your left. Now keep in mind, the representative in the well needs to go get on his oxygen tank.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to tell him I'll complete his bill and then walk you down to get a whiff because I didn't understand anything you said.
Well, I just want your vote, Mr. Representative. I'll yield the will and ask for the body's favorable consideration.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 891. The ayes are 151, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1055.
House Bill 1055 by Representative Ridley, the sixth, and others be titled an act to amend Code Section 41(1) of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating the definitions relative to motor vehicles and traffic. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Ridley to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, everybody. I'm excited for all of us to be here today. We've got some sweeping legislation. I think you all will be ready to go back home and use this for re-election. What we're doing here on this bill, House Bill 1055, is it's moving the weight of an ATV from 2,500 to 3,500 pounds. The reason it's doing that is because just like everything else, it's going to electric, and the battery compartments weighs more than a gas-powered engine does, so we're moving that up. Mr. Speaker, at this time I'll take any questions.
You do not have any questions.
Amen. Thank y'all.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1055. The ayes are 150. The nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 780.
House Bill 780 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd, to be entitled an act to amend Title 47 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to retirement and pensions so as to provide for membership of full-time judges of the statewide business court and the retirement plan established for appellate court judges. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Retirement, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Leverett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I'm presenting to you today House Bill 780, which, to pick up on the comments that Representative Ridley made, this is the one bill that could probably make a bill on ATV weights seem sexy and like a great campaign issue by comparison. It's a retirement bill. It would move the single judge of the statewide business court, which was created back in 2018 by the voters of this state in a constitutional amendment, from the judicial retirement system to the employee retirement system, which may seem rather odd because he is a judge, but as a judge he has statewide jurisdiction like the judges of the appellate courts. He actually sits in the deal center across the street here and has statewide jurisdiction like them, and administratively he is assigned to the Georgia Court of Appeals, the judges of which are all actually in the employee retirement system. Appellate court judges are in the ERS. And so this would move him into ERS to sort of rectify that incongruity where he's the only one in that building who's not in ERS and is in JRS. So we believe this is a more appropriate place for him to be. As Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you can end up somewhere else. Apparently that happened back when we created the court, and so this is just rectifying that incongruity. I would say that there has been an actuarial study. Of course, there'll be a savings to JRS and a cost to ERS, and those net out at about a $7,000 per year cost. And I'll yield the well for questions, Mr. Speaker.
You do have a question if you care to yield.
I yield.
Chair recognizes Representative Jasmine Clark to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I yield, ma'am.
So can you just explain to me what is the difference between JRS versus the state employment or retirement system from the perspective of the judge? What will be different for the judge?
It's a rather tedious, detailed description, which I have on my phone if you would like to hear it, but basically he gets a little more lucrative retirement a little earlier under JRS, under ERS than he would under JRS.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Speaker.
No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will yield the well and ask your favorable consideration of House Bill 780. Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 780, the ayes are 152, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. You feel better now, Representative Williamson? Okay. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 899.
House Bill 899 by Representative Williamson of the 115th and others, to be titled an act to amend Title 13 of the official code of Georgia Annotated relating to contracts so as to provide for the legal effects of discontinuance of LIBOR on contracts, securities, or instruments. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary. This bill having referred to the Committee on Banks and Banking. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Williamson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, good morning. I come to you as a new and refreshed representative this morning to bring you another bill, House Bill 899, LC 502059ER. And Mr. Speaker, actually, Representative Wilkerson mentioned to me that he had never seen me so flustered before presenting any of this legislation, and he reminded me we had a new banking committee chair, and he was wondering if that might have something to do with it. But
He's striking fear in the hearts of his committee members.
Amen. This bill, in all seriousness, is the second part of the Department of Banking and Finance's legislative package this year. For those of you that are familiar with, and all of us are, the Wall Street Journal prime floating rate, a lot of notes, anything from borrowing for small commercial needs through long-term mortgages oftentimes are floating on Wall Street Journal prime. There is an analogous rating mechanism known as LIBOR, the London Interbank Offered Rate, that's been used more traditionally in Europe in more sophisticated financial transactions. But long story short, because of some misbehavior in that marketplace back during the meltdown around 2015, the international banking community got together and decided that pricing mechanism needed to be replaced. And the alternative pricing mechanism is known as SOFR, the Secured Overnight Financing Rate, which, unlike the LIBOR rate, this is based on actual financial transactions. It's going to be controlled and regulated by Alternative Rate Advisory Committee, which is made up of major financial institutions, oversight committees, consumer advocate organizations, and such. LIBOR will completely go away in the end of June of 2023, and the fear is that there might be contracts hanging out there that reference LIBOR with no fallback language. This bill simply adds a fallback language for SOFR for the protection of both the borrowers and the lending community. Mr. Speaker, that's what the bill does. Be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any. If not, I'll yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
You have a question if you care to yield.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Be happy to.
Isn't it true that the LIBOR transition is an issue for all states? And in passing this, Georgia is adopting a nationally recognized standard language to ensure that our citizens, financial institutions, all have a clear way through this worldwide issue?
It gives us an alternative way to address the disappearance of LIBOR. You're absolutely correct. 2 states have already passed this model language. We'll be the 3rd. There's numerous states lined up to get it in place. Again, it's all about making sure that when the final shoe drops and LIBOR pricing completely goes away, there will be alternative language if needed.
Thank you. This is a good bill.
Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well and ask for the body's favorable consideration.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 899. The ayes are 154, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. House Bill 961 will be postponed until the next legislative day. Clerk, we're on now to the supplemental rules calendar. Supplemental rules calendar. The clerk will read the caption to House Bill 826.
House Bill 826 by Representative Earhart of the 36th and others, to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of Lost Mountain. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
The Rules Committee has voted to limit debate to a total of 1 hour on all legislation. That will be divided by the chair, 30 minutes to each side. That does not include the initial presentation by the author, nor does it include the minority report or the chairman's report. Chair recognizes Representative Earhart to present House Bill 826.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I present for your consideration House Bill 826, which would authorize a local referendum to create the city of Lost Mountain, Georgia, in western Cobb County. Essentially, this bill would, when passed, allow the voters who live within the proposed city limits to decide for themselves whether or not they wish to incorporate. This is about local control. This is about bringing representation closer to the voters. For a little perspective, and I can give it to you because I live in this part of the county and have for 50 years. Years ago, when Cobb County was a much smaller county, we had the same number of commission members, 5 folks to represent the entire county. Currently, right now, the folks who live in West Cobb, my neighbors, they do have representation. They do. But it's 1 commissioner for 200,000 people. Upon the creation of the city of Lost Mountain and the creation of a city council elected by the members of that city, that representation would then decrease to 1 for every 12,000 citizens, an appropriate representation. This new city would provide limited city services, planning and zoning, code enforcement, sanitation, and parks and recreation. The governing body would be made up of 6 city council members elected by the city at large, 4-year terms that are staggered. Again, this model with sort of a controlled and just smaller amounts of services, folks, is what is greatly desired in my part of the county. The nice thing about having representation close to home is that you know your representatives, you know your council members because you go to church with them, you see them at the grocery store, you see them at the ballparks. I can tell you that there's a tremendous amount of momentum for the concept of cityhood in western Cobb County. I'm proud to represent that district. I'm proud to know my neighbors and know that they have a beautiful and wonderful vision for western Cobb County. They're excited to have a say in the planning and zoning of their own neighborhoods. Currently, 80% of those on the commission council who make decisions for planning and zoning do not live in that part of the county. So the idea that the folks who are making the decisions about these sorts of things would be folks who actually live in this part of the county. I'm encouraged about the positive feedback that we've had. I'm encouraged about the momentum that we have, and I certainly ask for your favorable consideration. Mr. Speaker, I will yield to any questions.
Chair recognizes Representative Jasmine Clark to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
Has there been a feasibility study for this city?
Yes, and thank you for asking about that. The feasibility study for this proposed city of Lost Mountain was conducted by the Carl Vinson Institute at the University of Georgia. That feasibility study concluded that not only was the city financially viable, but that it would result in a $3.5 million surplus each year. So we do believe that the feasibility gave credence to certainly the economic feasibility of the city.
Does the gentlelady further yield?
I do.
Can you elaborate, when exactly was this feasibility study done, and $3.5 million to who?
Say the last part again?
And the $3.5 million to who specifically?
Right, to the city. That is the surplus to the city. In other words, and the study was conducted last year. It was begun at the beginning of the summer and concluded in late October. And in terms of when I say the surplus, what I mean is that the revenue to the city would exceed its expenditures by $3.5 million.
And then my final question, does the gentlelady further yield?
I do.
How will the people in this proposed city get their fire and police?
Right. We are only proposing to provide those 4 services that I mentioned. So city and fire and any other of those types of services would continue to be provided by Cobb County.
Thank you.
Do you further yield?
I'll yield for another question.
Chair recognizes the Minority Caucus Whip, Representative Wilkerson, to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
I do.
I just have a few clarifying questions. I was able to watch the hearing, and as you know, I live right a stone's throw away from this new city. Can you explain the governance model? Because I know East Cobb had a similar governance model of at-large and mayor picking among y'all, the people in there. But if we're trying to get closer to the people, wouldn't it be better to have each district represent their own? Elect their own council people, because you're having districts, but you're having them elected citywide. That seems kind of disproportionate.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, the importance there is to be ensure that all parts of the new city are represented. That's why there is a requirement. There are 3 districts in the new city. With a city council of 6 people, the requirement is that 2 from each district must live in that district. That way we ensure that all parts of the city are represented, the interests, and that is very important. Then those 6 seats are elected by the city at large. So in other words, they are also, you will find that makes those representatives accountable to all of the citizens of the city, and yet they represent and they come from or they live in the community of one of those districts. That's important because sometimes you could have an issue in one district, let's say it's a new development or something, that could have effect on the other districts as well. So that is so it is 6 total council members.
Thank you. 2 final questions. And that, what you described kind of reminds me of those multi-member districts back in the early 2000s where we had multiple people representing to kind of influence the election in a certain way by putting everybody together. But
I could also
digress.
Mention that sort of that mayoral model and that process is working very well in Thomasville and Rome. Those are good examples.
Yeah, okay. Second question is, as far as the revenues, you mentioned a $3.5 million surplus. Will there be additional taxes for these residents? Will their taxes go up?
Taxes will not go up.
Okay, I'm just kind of confused. I'm looking at line 1002 where it says new revenues from utility franchise fees. So is that the bill incorrect, or is that
well no,
new revenue makes me think it's new
the
taxes?
revenue exists but currently goes to the county, but that revenue would then be directed to the city.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then final question, the letter that we talked about earlier, and I'm sorry, do you yield for one last question?
I will.
Thank you. You should have from the elections director her concern about having a May primary. Is that any concern at all as far as pushing us through?
I'm aware I did not receive a copy of that letter, but once you mentioned it in the Rules Committee early this morning, I did have an opportunity to call her, and I did actually speak to Jenny Neveler from the Cobb Board of Elections, and just to kind of clarify, she indicated to me that her preference would be for a November referendum. However, it's certainly not required. And we certainly are working with expediency here to move this along just as quickly as possible so we can give the good folks of Lost Mountain the opportunity to decide for themselves whether or not they'd like to incorporate. Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for the time, and I do yield the well.
Lady has yielded the well. We have members who have signed up to speak both ways on the bill. Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I apologize. I'm about as out of breath as Representative Williamson was a little while ago. And I'm in good shape. But I digress. I just want to point out real quickly, just like I did with a cityhood bill we had in here a week or so ago, I have some real concerns with the governing structure of this city. You know, we hear a lot of people talk about how, you know, everyone, and I don't disagree, communities should absolutely have this ability to vote to self-determine what they want to do. Do they want to incorporate? But again, they need to be able to do it with their eyes wide open. And we hear from folks who have said in the past, well, you know, Cobb County, we have all these great cities. We've got Smyrna, we've got Marietta, elsewhere, we've got, you know, Roswell, we've got all of these amazing cities in Georgia, and that's absolutely true. But this city isn't like those cities. This city isn't like those cities. And not just because it only offers a smattering of city services, but because you have these at-large seats. And yes, several of the people do have to live in their district, but because you have these at-large seats, you can absolutely have a supermajority on the city council that could live in one subdivision, because you could have one person in their district and then the 3 other at-large could all live in that same subdivision. Not only that, the mayor isn't elected citywide. This would be the largest city in Cobb County. With that comes a couple of things. For example, the chair of the Board of Commissioners and the mayor of the largest city in Cobb have a seat on the Atlanta Regional Commission Board. Should the person who gets that seat be selected by the supermajority of 4 people who could potentially live in one subdivision? That is not what I think people think they're getting when they think they're getting a city. They think they're getting true representative democracy, just like we have in Smyrna or you have in Marietta, where the council members have to live in the district that they represent. The mayor is elected citywide. You have checks and balances when you have that also. I don't oppose new cities. I don't oppose citizens being able to have that self-determination to form a city, but again, I think they need to know what they're getting, and I think there needs to be a structure that actually gives them what they think they're getting, and this governance structure is not that, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Mary Frances Williams to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I've lived in Cobb my whole life. I've lived in West Cobb. I've lived in an area that would be covered by the city of Lost Mountain. I lived there for 18 years when my boys were in school. I also have districts in my current, precincts in my current district, which are, portions of them are included in this map. So this map is in your folders, I believe. I wish you would take a look at it, because I really wish you would take a look at it, because it is a huge chunk of Cobb. A huge chunk of Cobb. The city of Lost Mountain, Lost Mountain's interesting. It's called Lost Mountain because you see it from a distance, but when you get closer to it, it disappears. And there is a famous old country store in Lost Mountain, in that area, that is now owned by a bank, I think, but has been preserved. But that's near Paulding County. This is a huge area. This is 75,000 people. This is a huge chunk of West Cobb. So we say this bill is good for business. And, you know, Cobb has brought forward Truist Park, Lockheed, KSU, Dobbins Air Force Base, and we are on the route for the ports, for the Georgia port, because when products go north, they're going to come through Cobb. Cobb's important. My concerns, I have several concerns. The management of cities brings many logistical challenges, and I don't really think those challenges have been addressed. I also have concerns about the governance model, and there were comments made about renegade mayors. So my dad was a mayor of Marietta, And I know we have other former mayors in this house on both sides of the aisle. And I don't know, I personally have never known a renegade mayor with some kind of kamikaze agenda. Also, there is the concern about not being able to manage this election in time. So we're looking at 4 new cities in Cobb, and that's a huge burden on our election director, and she has written a letter which I wish you would take into consideration. And I've spoken with her too, and she says, Mary Frances, she says, we'll do what we're told to do. So if you ask her point blank, if you ask a county employee point blank and you're a legislator, she'll say, if we're told to do it, we'll do it. But she has said to me, I don't know how. When I spoke with her a couple of weeks ago, she didn't have the reapportionment data yet. I'm not anti-city either, and I have anti-cityhood, and I have been told that I really should just stay away from this. This is a lost cause. Mary Frances, why are you bothering with it? So I'll tell you why I'm bothering with it. I love Cobb just the way you love your counties. And I hear you talk. I know you love your counties and your cities the way I love Cobb. I really love Cobb County. I love West Cobb. I love the horse barns. I don't think this is a homogeneous area at all. It's just so huge. But the other thing, there's a question that people a lot wiser and more experienced have not been able to answer for me, and they just kind of shake their head. I don't know, Mary Frances. I say, what is the impact of these cities, these 4 new cities, all at once on Cobb government? And nobody can answer that question for me. And I say, I'm just worried about it. I'm worried about it. It just seems like so much. My main concerns are East Cobb and Lost Mountain, because they're both, East Cobb is not shown on this map, but it's almost as big as Lost Mountain. Lost Cobb, yep, that's where we are. So, I know this is hard. I know that a lot of times we get into partisan battles on things, and I get that. I'm as guilty of it as anybody. But I'm speaking from my heart, and I'm telling you, I love this county. I think we're moving very, very fast to make huge changes to a wonderful city that, as I told you, has brought you Dobbins Air Force Base, Lockheed, Truist Park, KSU, and that's only a couple of things. I could go on and on. So please, this isn't something we have to rush, and I don't think we know what we're doing, and so I would ask you to vote no on the City of Lost Mountain. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Seabaugh to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise today in support of House Bill 826. I'm honored to represent the 34th District in Cobb County, in which the City of Lost Mountain shall reside. My predecessor, Representative Burt Reeves, who many of you know and respect, and many of you just know, he was instrumental in the formation of the committee to preserve West Cobb, and I am happy to see this legislation come before this House for a vote today. For many reasons you've heard today, this city makes sense. It provides representative government closest to the people without duplication of services. This is not a referendum on Cobb County. We have some of the best services in the state of Georgia, no doubt. But during my campaign this summer, canvassing over 6,000 doors, an overwhelming number of residents indicated they were in favor of this House passing a referendum allowing them to vote on the city of Lost Mountain. The formation of this city has been in the works for several years now. In 1980, when there were about 300,000 people in all of Cobb County, and the major highway going through West Cobb was compacted gravel with dirt ditches on either side of the road, cotton fields, cornfields line the roads out in West Cobb County. It's not that way anymore. We have almost 900,000 people in Cobb County now, and on any given day, we have several 100,000 people coming to work or drive through Cobb County. For these reasons, among others that you've heard today, I ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 826. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Chairman Ed Setzler to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House, I did want to address some of the questions raised. Just highlight for members, before I served in office, I was at a town hall meeting and was there with sandals, khaki shorts, and a t-shirt. And we were talking to our local elected official in Cobb County about a school that was being built in our area, and we wanted to make sure that some basic little small details about developing the school site went into the plan to work with the neighborhoods around it. We talked about a little trail where our kids could walk to school, and in the swirl of all that, and we don't have a lot of time to talk today, I'll never forget, we had 60 people in that town hall meeting. And I don't want to call our school board member out by name, but that little trail never got built. Those folks in that town hall meeting who asked for something very, 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 very simple in the big churn of a county with over 700,000 people in it, just details didn't get taken up. I live in unincorporated Cobb now. I like my commissioner. In fact, as a state representative, it's easy to get your county commissioner to return your phone call. I'm sure you all know that. But the challenge is, when I ran for office for the first time, I ran for one reason: so that regular people could matter. I didn't have a political resume before I ran. I wasn't really involved in politics. I was raised in a small family, working for an engineering firm as a young veteran. And the sense in which regular folks' voice needs to be present, needs to be heard, and needs to have a role and have meaning in representative government, that is the essence of what the city of Lost Mountain is all about. Currently in Cobb County, one elected official, really all of whom I get along with well and do their best to serve, serves 192,000 constituents in unincorporated Cobb. If you want to have an easement taken care of, you want to have a pothole fixed, you have anything addressed to your county commissioner, you have 192,000 people for one commission district and a chairman that represents the entire county. In fact, your backyard is really ultimately controlled. The local zoning decisions, the things that affect your backyard and your street, are controlled by people in posts that you don't vote for. Your backyard is really controlled by folks you can't elect. Ladies and gentlemen, this vision of this quality of life and preservation-focused city of Lost Mountain is addressing that issue head on. Not because we have any issues with our county. Our county provides really unparalleled services in many ways. In fact, that's the reason why the city of Lost Mountain will continue to get police and fire and other services from Cobb County, because they do a good job of that. But those things that matter a lot to people, what happens in your backyard, what's the nature of growth and change and zoning and planning and quality of life and parks and rec and trash collection, those things, we believe, with that focus on quality of life and preserving the really unparalleled rural residential, very low density residential nature of Lost Mountain is something that's worthy of preserving. And when overlaid with this issue of representation, that every person ought to be able to vote for the elected officials that affect their backyard, is really the impetus behind the city of Lost Mountain. Mr. Speaker, I will say the question was raised about the governance model. I think it's a very strong one. Our governance model is based on consensus. With the council members appointing a mayor to serve on 2-year terms, that same model is used in the city of Thomasville with great effect. It's used in the city of Rome. Again, a city of more than 50,000 people with great effect. This isn't a novel concept, but it's one that focuses on consensus, so the mayor really serves as the first among equals, because the focus of the city of Lawson Mountain is building common vision and moving forward as a consensus city focused on quality of life, not ramming down tough 4-3 votes with, or using mayoral vetoes to try to solve squabbles and fights. There's great consensus about what the vision, long-term vision for Lawson Mountain should be. And as an area that's larger than 126 counties, that's larger than the city of Albany, larger in population than Valdosta, Gainesville, Rome, and Statesboro, I believe the 74,613 people within the city of Lawson Mountain should have an opportunity to vote for themselves. Do they want representative government where their neighbors and folks around them make the decisions about their backyard, or do they want to be represented with one representative for nearly 200,000 people? Mr. Speaker, I will address just very briefly, and again, I know the lady didn't intend to do this. Representative Nolowitz is a great detailed legislator. It was a factual mistake she made. I wanted to make a clarification. There are no at-large members in the city of Lawson Mountain. I know one of the other cities that was part of the picture initially. In the city of Lawson Mountain, there are 6 council members. There are 3 districts. There'll be 2 per district. Every 2 years, one will run on alternating terms, but there is no at-large representation. So I know she wouldn't have said that if it was just a factual thing that she was unclear about. But we have 3 districts with 2 council members each, one of whom will be appointed mayor for a maximum 2-year term. Mr. Speaker, as I wrap up, I would just say we'll commit this to you. I think the schedule of elections with the yes or no vote in May and the election of the council members in November will maximize involvement. The yes or no vote in May, which the Cobb Board of Elections does have the ability to make happen. We're talking about the city limits are along major roads. I know the boards of elections have had problems with annexations of individual parcels in the past, but these roads are clean. They're very easily defined. So it is yes, what we do here does add a little to the responsibilities of our boards of election. But Cobb County has one of the best boards of election in the state. We have tremendous resources, and the May 22 primary date will allow this yes or no vote to happen with maximum participation, so that in November, with the maximum participation, all the elected officials who would represent the city can be elected. To do otherwise would be to require a special election to be put on board by our Board of Elections. Elected officials will be elected in March with very low turnout. A May yes or no vote and a November decision on our elected officials maximizes public involvement in this very important decision to give representative government to 74,613 people, just like you and I were before we were elected. With that, Mr. Speaker, I would urge your consideration and your vote for HB 826, and I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the will. It's my understanding that the minority report is being waived. No request for the chairman's time. Mr. Clerk, you want to ring the bell? What purpose does Representative Anulowitz rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that when I am indeed wrong about something, I am happy to admit that I am wrong?
I thought you'd never been wrong.
The gentleman knows of which he speaks. Is it not further true that while in line 192 of this legislation it states that a council member must be a resident of the city, in line 196 it says there are 6 posts. In line 200 it says each district shall be represented by 2 posts, but I cannot seem to find where it says the representatives must reside within the districts.
I will let each member do as careful a reading as the lady has, and then address the concern to their good judgment. What purpose does Chairman Oliver rise?
Am I correct? It's a permanent inquiry,
State
sir.
your inquiry.
Am I correct that franchise fees are not collected by the county? They're only collected by cities, and so the suggestion that somehow municipal awarded franchise fees will already been paid by the county, that's another mistake that we want to correct. Isn't that true, sir?
If the lady believes that, I know that she believes it to be true. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 826 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 826. The ayes are 92, the nays are 61. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Setzler rise?
Make a motion.
State your motion.
I'd like to make a motion to immediately transmit this bill to the Senate.
Chairman Setzler has moved that House Bill 826 be immediately transmitted to the Senate. Is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor of immediate transmittal will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the gentleman's motion that House Bill 826 be immediately transmitted to the Senate. The ayes are 94, the nays are 58, and it is on its way to the state Senate. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 840.
House Bill 840 by Representative Carson, the 46th, and others to be entitled an act to incorporate the city of Vinings. This bill having referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Folks, last year, of course, we went through the process, but we introduced a proposal for the community of Vinings to incorporate in House Bill 840. What this bill would allow would be for much of the similar arguments that you've heard for Lost Mountain, but some a little bit different. You can see on the screens to your right and left a picture of City of Vinings as the boundaries as proposed. I want to first start off by saying that this is a much smaller entity than what we have debated in this body previously. This is only 7,000 individuals as proposed. This bill would provide for a public referendum on Vinings cityhood with a May 24th primary and looking to have November elections later this fall. The entire area is currently completely within unincorporated Cobb County and has, like I said, a population of about 7,000 residents. This would be a very light city, if you will. We're only looking to create a city that would be in charge of 3 items: planning and zoning, parks and recreation, and code enforcement. A feasibility was done by University of Georgia Carl Vinson Institute. They concluded that Vinings would be quite honestly, very fiscally feasible, with about average estimated revenues about $3.1 million, estimated expenses including capital expenditures of about $1.9 million, leaving a very healthy surplus of $1.2 million, almost a little over a third of their revenues are as a surplus. Now, in regard to the city structure, this is a little bit different. You can see the picture up there on the boards. Those are the 4 districts. One person would be elected from each district citywide, and a little bit different from other structures, a mayor would be elected citywide as well. Mayor and council would be serving for a period of 4 years. There would be an interim period where some would serve for 3, some would serve for 5 as an introductory period, but there would be 4-year periods afterwards. Mr. Speaker, that is essentially the bill. I would also like to mention that many people feel like Vinings is already a city. That actually came up in Chair Lady Taylor's committee. We thought that city of Vinings was already a city. And I will tell you that this area is politically and demographically diverse. Having said that, there is 71% polling in favor of a city of Vinings. Now, I want to repeat that because there's a lot of cityhood initiatives at this Capitol this year, but I don't think you'll find many with as much grassroots support by the residents. 71% polling as of a year ago, and it's only grown since then. These people are looking for the ability to vote, to have a referendum, and have government closer to the people. With that, Mr. Speaker, happy to answer a question or two. I know we have probably some other people signed up for this, but if there's no questions, I will yield the well.
You have several questions if you care to yield.
Yes, sir, I'll take one question.
Chair recognizes Representative Burnell to your left for a question.
Would the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard over and over again about the fact that you all want to about your commissioners and the fact that about the population that you're not getting the representation. So instead of creating 4 new cities in Cobb, why didn't you all just increase your commissioners?
That was not something that was contemplated. The area specifically of Vinings thinks of itself as a city. They're the ones asking for this ability to incorporate.
Thank you.
Do you further yield?
I will take just one more question, sir, and I know the hour is late.
Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz to your left for a question.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
I do, yes.
I have one question. The city has a mayor. It's all in 251. It all says the city has a mayor, 4 council members. There are 4 districts, and I you know, Vinings is. I agree with you. Has a sense of community that is genuine and true. Are the council members required to live in the districts they represent?
The council members, as I understand it, yes, and we've vetted this with legislative council, are required to live in their districts, but they will be voted citywide.
But they do have to live in the district that they're going to be represented.
That's correct, yes.
And I don't, I mean, again, this is a much smaller, this is, you know, the last city was 70,000, this is 7,000. That's
Correct.
not quite the same thing. Do you further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
The boundaries, how come the boundaries in the map, they go far beyond what people typically think of as historic Vinings? What is the reason for that?
This is something that was designed by the cityhood founders. The lines did change, Representative, from the map that was initially proposed to the ones that we're talking about today. And the reason being is because of the 2020 census. The map that as drawn early last year was developed off of 2010 CDT, Census Data Tracts. This map, as designed by the cityhood initiatives in regard to where are the people that think of Vinings as a city, they want that community feel, they want that closer government to them. This is what the map they designed after the 2020 Census Data Tract adjustments.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Speaker, I know the hour is late. I will yield the will and ask for this body's favorable consideration.
Gentleman has yielded the well. We have a couple of members who wish to speak on the bill, and the chair recognizes Representative Eric Allen to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be really brief. As the only member of this House who represents Vinings and the community of Vinings, it was brought up in committee that I initially did sign on to this bill after talking with members of the community because I felt they needed the process to move forward. But after multiple town halls, conversations with the pro movement, the people that were against, I'm not sure where the 71% poll came from, but it was clear to me that this is not something that the residents of Vinings wanted. Mostly they called it a forced city because of the three essential services. If you think about what was just said on the three essential services, there's zoning, there's code enforcement, and then there's parks. There is not a park in what would be the city of Vinings. There is one green space with about 13 parking spaces that people take and walk their dog, but it's not technically any parks that are in that area. So you're basically looking at two services, zoning and code enforcement. The other thing I'll say is there's been some talk about Director Evler and her request to move, to not have these in May, but to move them to November if they are for a vote. It's been said that people have talked to her and said that, she's willing to do what she's, requested to do. But I want to be clear, and the letter is on your desk. Being told to do something that you're not comfortable with is not saying that someone is willing to or ready to do it. I think it is an unfair and undue burden. And if this can be corrected in the Senate, I'm hopeful that they will take that up over there. So for those reasons, I'm going to be voting no because I'm responding to my constituency. And as the only representative in this body that represents and is elected by the people who live in Vinings, in the proposed city of Vinings, I encourage you to do the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Gravely to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some of you may wonder why a gentleman who represents Paulding County is up here to speak on a bill about Vining cityhood. A lot of things cross our minds down here. But I'll tell you, because I grew up in Vinings. Graduated from high school, Campbell High School in 1990. Well, I won't say that. But yes, sir, go Spartans. And see, half of Campbell High School's district incorporates Vinings. So I grew up with kids in Vinings. I went over to spend the night parties in Vinings. My first date was at the old Vinings Inn. Still there today. I know. Tell me what crosses your mind on that one. But ladies and gentlemen, my aunt, Nina Gravely, owned the old Vinings Antique Store for years in downtown Vinings, which those of you who are familiar with the area would know it as the Jubilee. Old Vinings, that's where we would go hang out. In high school, that's where we were. My mother worked in the Jubilee, in the healthcare field, for 20 plus years. It was nothing for me to go and spend afternoons, weekends in Vinings. And I'll be honest with you, I was one of them. Growing up, I thought Vinings was a city. I never knew that it was just a community. And it's a beautiful community. Sits right on the cusp of the Chattahoochee River. It's an economic center for Cobb County. The bistros and the restaurants and the bungalows and the townhomes are just beautiful. My grandmother still lives a stone's throw away from the Vinings community to this day. Worked in the banking community for 55 plus years. So when it comes to Vinings, ever since I was a kid, I've heard people talk about this community. For years, I thought it was a city. And I can tell you, after I graduated and came back to Cobb County, the cityhood movement, or the talk about Vinings being a city,
has been happening since the mid to late 90s. So this is something that's been 20 plus years old. My cousin worked at the Kroger in Vinings. I mean, there's just a number of things that my heart and my childhood associate with this community. If you grew up in Cobb County in the Smyrna area, and I know my friends, Mr. Allen and Ms. Anulowitz, who served on the city council over there, has heard the phrase Smyrna Vinings. Sminings. When you want to sell your home, you say it's in the Vinings community. And I know darn well there's been people in West Smyrna selling homes in the Vinings community nowhere near that area, simply because they want to associate with that community. So I would encourage you to vote favorably on this issue that has been on the hearts and minds of the residents and the taxpayers of Vinings for 20 plus years. This is a community that deserves to be a city. And for many of us, we've always thought it was a city. Mr. Speaker, I will yield the will and ask for everyone's favorable consideration and vote this measure so that Vinings can become a city.
That completes the members who wanted to be heard. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 840 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 840. The ayes are 99, the nays are 56. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Carson rise?
To make a motion, Mr.
State
Speaker.
your motion.
I move for immediate transmittal of HB 840 to the Georgia Senate.
Chairman Carson has moved that House Bill 840 be immediately transmitted to the Senate. Is there objection? Hearing no objection, it is on its way over. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
Honoring the life and memory of Miller Peterson Pete Robinson. Honoring the life and memory of Georgianne Etheline Dyer Jones. Honoring the life and memory of Clarence Edward Morgan. Recognizing February 8, 2022 as Albany Voters Coalition Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing and commending Family Purpose of Gwinnett County. Recognizing the week of February 7th through 11th, 2022 as National School Council Week. Recognizing and commending Judge Bobby D. Simmons on his outstanding public service. Commending the Madison County Middle School's Future Farmers of America. Congratulating and commending the Muskogee Retired Educators Association. Recognizing February 8th, 2022 is Dyslexia Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing and commending the Georgia Concerns of Police Survivors. Congratulating the Benedictine Military School Cadets football team for winning the 2021 Georgia High School Association Class 4A State Championship. Recognizing and commending Page Turners Make Great Learners. And recognizing and commending Dr. John H. Carter And for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. All right, listen up now. We have a large tray full of local bills up here, submitted by members of both parties. It's the chair's intent to have the clerk read all of the bills and then take one motion to suspend the temporarily suspend the rules to allow them to be assigned to the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee. Okay. We've got about 50 bills, I'm told, so we're not going to read the caption. And these are all Senate bills, okay. All right, is there any objection? I'll ask the motion this way. Is there any objection to each of these local bills that came over from the Senate to be, for the rules to be temporarily suspended and let these bills be all assigned to the Intergovernmental Coordination Committee? Is there objection? Chair hears none. They will each be assigned to Intergovernmental Coordination. We also have a group of House bills, the same inquiry of you. Is there any objection to letting each of those bills be filed by the clerk and assigned to Intergovernmental Coordination? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered, and they will be assigned to Intergovernmental Coordination. All right, we're going on now to announcements. If you have signed up for an announcement, make your way to the front of the chamber and be ready to go. Chair recognizes Chairman Lynn Smith for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Well, there's going to be breakfast tomorrow morning in room 216. Several people promoting the Okefenokee are going to have Okefenokee Day tomorrow morning. So it's a grab and go. And I do want to say this as well. No matter where you stand on an issue currently before the General Assembly, I think we all agree that we love the Okefenokee. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jan Tankersley for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For this first announcement, I just want to urge you one more time to get behind your senators, to sign bills and get them over here. So just take note of that. And there's also an Intergovernmental Coordination Committee meeting today at 1 o'clock in room 341. It'll be a short meeting. Thank you.
That take care of both of yours? Chair recognizes Chairman Sam Watson and the Majority Leader, Leader Burns, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is Forestry Day at the Capitol. And if you did not know it, our state is the #1 forestry state in the nation. So tomorrow, when you get to work here, we're going to have some forestry equipment out on the street. They'll have some Chick-fil-A biscuits and be talking forestry tomorrow. So hope you can all come by. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the chair of the Minority Caucus, Chairman Mitchell, for an announcement.
The Democratic Caucus will meet via Zoom at 1:15 today. You may pick up lunch in 307 in the CLOB. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jay Collins for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee
We'll meet at 1 o'clock in room 406 of CLOB. Got a few bills to take up. Please try to make it. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Gullett for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have two subcommittees today for Governmental Affairs. Governmental Affairs General Government Subcommittees at 2 o'clock, room 506, and the Redistricting and Elections Special Subcommittee is at 3 o'clock, room 506. Again, Governmental Affairs Subcommittee for General Government, 2 o'clock, and Redistricting and Elections, 3 o'clock, 506. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carpenter for an announcement.
Thank you, Speaker. We have the Subcommittee on Lottery Oversight at 1:30, room 606, 1:30.
Chair recognizes Representative Gamble for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock in Capitol 133, the fellowship will meet. I encourage you to come out and have your spirits uplifted. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Cannon for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is Community Midwives Day at the State Capitol. If you want to find out why home birth has increased 29% over the past year, there is a Zoom at 1:30 p.m. and lunch will be provided before then. If you need information, just come see me. Thank you very much.
That completes our announcements. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House. Oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't. I got one more very important announcement to make. I'm going to ask you to give attention. Today we have a very, very special birthday of a guy who works hard for all of us all year round. Today is the birthday of the Clerk of the House, Clerk Bill Riley. And I know how old he is. Now I recognize the Majority Leader of this House for a motion.
And I want to ask how old he is, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until tomorrow at 10 a.m. Tuesday, February the 8th, 2022.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House be adjourned until Tuesday, February 8 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes clearly have it. This House will be adjourned until Tuesday, February the 8th at 10 a.m.